You, the dragons, the dragons found here in America. Let's go. Let me know what you think. Episode number 30. No fear, no worries. The Most High is here. Let's get it. Let those with ears hear clearly. Dodging all idolatry. We out of here for this one. Let's go. Something slight, something light for the tribe. All praise Most High. You know how we do it. We're talking lost tribes and promised lands. The seed of Abraham. Hey, this one is a wave, man. Let me know what you think. Feel free. Leave a note in the comments. Shout out to everybody rocking with me. Back with another one. Number 30. No worries. No fear. The Most High is here. Let's go. Let those with ears hear clearly. We dodging all idolatry. Let's go. You're now tapped in with Dragon Canoe. We're steadily rowing and we're constantly flowing. All praise to the Most High. Let's go. You know how we do it. We got to get the flute flowing, get the vibes going. For when your power, Hawah, brings you to the land that you are about to enter and possess, and Hawah, your power, dislodges many nations before you, the Hittites, Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, 7 nations much larger than you, and your power delivers them to you and you defeat them. You must doom them to destruction. Grant them no terms and give them no quarter. You shall not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons or take their daughters for your sons, for they will turn your children away from me to worship other gods with a little g. And Hawah's anger will blaze forth against you, promptly wiping you out. Instead, this is what you shall do to them. You shall tear down their altars, smash their pillars, cut down their sacred posts, and consign their images to the fire. For you are a people consecrated to your power. Hawah, of all peoples on the earth, your power chose you to be Hawah's treasured people. It is not because you are the most numerous of peoples that your power grew attached to you and chose you. Indeed, you are the smallest of peoples. But it was because your power favored you and kept the oath made to your fathers that Hawah freed you with a mighty hand and rescued you from the house of bondage, from the power of the Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Know, therefore, that only your power, Hawah, is the steadfast power who keeps the divine covenant faithfully to the 1,000th generation of those who love Hawah and keep the divine commandments, but who instantly requites with destruction those who reject Hawah, never slow with those who reject, but requiting them instantly. Therefore, observe faithfully the instruction, the laws, and the rules with which I charge you today, saith the Most High. Let's go. We out of here for this one. We're talking section 107, providing the statutory framework for determining whether something is fair use. We're talking scholarship and research here. Let's go. Episode number 30. No worries. Let's get it. Let me know what you think. I know y'all will anyways. Are you, the dragons, the dragons found here in America? And we're back. Let me know what you think. Leave a note in the comments. Are you, the dragons found here in America? It is hardly worthwhile for me to discuss the common origin of the North American Indian tribes. The theory, which has had many supporters since the days of William Penn, that they descended from Israel, because of the prevalence among them of similar customs, racial traits, and language. That the red men of America should be descendants of the Israelites seems to us an impossibility, they say, and it is absurd to contend that a colored race could descend from a purely white race, they say. The history of the human family shows no such radical changes. The similarity of customs, ceremonies, etc., may indicate that both probably sprang from the same source in the far distant prehistoric past, but nothing more. That they descended from Israel, a colored race, they say, in no way could descend from a purely white race. I'm just connecting the dots here. For a full presentation of this theory, see The Mound Builders by Cyrus Thomas. The Shawnees themselves were mound builders. Are the so-called mound builders descendants of Abraham? Let me know what you think. It says, if nothing is found to disprove the very logical deductions of Professor Thomas in his Story of a Mound, or the Shawnees in pre-Columbian times, in which he gives his reasons for believing them to be the builders of the famous Etowah Mounds in Bartow County, Georgia. The Etowah Mounds in Bartow County, Georgia, and many smaller earthworks and burial places in Tennessee, Kentucky, and other states. We're talking mound builders. We're talking Mound City, Chillicothe, Ohio. We're talking Old Piquettown, Tecumseh's birthplace. Old Chillicothe, what are the odds? The capital of Columbus, we're talking pre-Columbian. Mound builders, Mound City, let's get it. The Great Spirit, the giver of life, our creator, and that all pay him homage and in their way worship him. Hua, the greatest power, they have no idols. In their council houses, they sometimes have representations of animals cut in relief posts, but they represent only certain divisions of the tribe, as that of the Turtle Clan. So they have these totemic families, says, which I found it very difficult to determine. This list given by me by Deshane, but there is very little error in it, if any, they say. We're talking 12 tribes. We're talking the most high. Let's get it. Just want you to put this in your mind real quick. Manatu, the snake tribe, the snake clan, Manatu. Let's get it. In astronomy, a constellation of the northern hemisphere, according to Flamsteed, right? Flamsteed, 80 stars, a constellation of 80 stars. The 8th tribe, Manatu, Draco. All right, we're just following the drinking gourd here. We're just following the drinking gourd. You know, something light, something slight. So we got the constellation Draco coiled between the Big and the Little Dipper. We're just following the drinking gourd here, the North Star. It says, if we could suppose that the absence of idolatry was because they had descended from the Jews, we should expect to find them with some sentiment of dislike to idol worship. But we perceive no such thing. They have no impressions about idols, either for or against them. They sometimes pay religious adoration to the sun, to the elements, or to a mysterious production of nature. So basically, they don't even know what idol worship is, because they not even on that. It doesn't even make sense. They don't even understand it. It says they sometimes pay religious adoration to the sun, to the elements, or to a mysterious production of nature. Such, for instance, as the curious salt spring on Solomon River. We're talking Khan, Saliman, the Great Spirit Spring. We're talking natural springs. We're talking water under the earth. For instance, as the curious salt spring on Saliman River, right? The idea never enters into their heads. It says, our tradition of the creation and the antediluvian period agrees in all essential points with the Mosaic record. So check this out. Let me know what you think. It says the tradition gives an account of the white man's great canoe and of the saving of a white family, just about as the Bible has it, right? We're talking Noah here. But in addition, it states that an old Indian woman was also saved. After the flood, she lived in a valley with a hill intervening between her and her white brother and his family, over which she could see the smoke rise from the white man's wigwam, right? So, what's really going on here? We just staying in check, searching for the Melchizedek. Says, when the sense of her loneliness and destitution came over her, she began to weep very bitterly. There then appeared a heavenly messenger, and asked her why she was so sorrowful. She told him that the Great Spirit had left her white brother his family, but she was just a poor old woman alone, and that there was to be an end of her people. We're talking a heavenly messenger, an old Indian woman, our grandmother, Kokomthana. Indeed, the word angel comes from the Greek angelos, meaning messenger. But before the Greek, it comes from the Hebrew word for such creatures as malak, malakim, seraphim, ophanim, cherubim. Says the Hebrew word for such creatures is malak, which effectively translates as the shadow side, as well as heavenly messenger. Let's go. Then said the visitor, remember how the first man was made. And from this she knew that a new creation was meant, so she made small images or children from the earth as directed as the Great Spirit had made the first man. Again, her messenger, Malak, messenger, appeared and inquired the cause of her grief. She said she had made children from clay, but they were only dirt. Then said the visitor, remember how the Great Spirit did when the first man was made. At once she understood and breathed breathed into their nostrils, and they all became alive. This was the beginning of the red man. The Shawnees to this day venerate the memory of the one they call their grandmother, Gokomthana, as the origin of their race, the first of their kind, Gokomthana. The origin. Traditionally, all of the principal bundles were given to the Shawnees by our grandmother. To these original bundles, items have been added from time to time since the creation of the Shawnees. The creation of the Shawnees, such as the heart and flesh of the dead crocodile discovered by Shalakatha. Are we talking Black Panther, the culture hero, T'Challa Katha, and his followers on the sea? Says their Ark of the Covenant, right? Or they're connecting them to the Hebrews. The Ark of the Covenant, and like most North American Indians, the Shawnees possessed a number of tribal palladia or sacred bundles, the name meaning Mishami, together with the terms for associated ritual concepts shared with the Sauks, Foxes, and Kickapoos, right? They're just connecting the dots, staying in check, searching for the Melchizedek. Leave a note in the comments. We out of here. And reflects prehistoric relationships with these tribes, as well as considerable antiquity of the bundle complex itself. There apparently were separate bundles for each of the 5 great divisions of the tribe at one time: Shalakatha, Makoshe, Thawakila, Kakoi, and Kishpako. Our grandmother's grandson and the Thunderbirds are also involved. The former is thought to have given the Kishpako division at least part of its bundle, which originally contained feathers from the Thunderbirds, right? We're talking heavenly messengers, Thunderbirds, Malak. Some of my informants think that the trefoil-shaped tomahawk, right? Trefoil, the clover-shaped tomahawk in the same bundle was added by Tecumtha. It says, the Shawnees, like many other North American Indian groups, conceive of thunder as being caused by the beating of the wings of giant heavenly birds, right? We're talking dragons. Let's go. Giant heavenly birds. sometimes described as having human faces. The flashing of the eyes of these birds produces lightning. Though they may cause destruction, they're considered to be a good and purifying force, considered the gatekeepers of heaven, heavenly messengers, giant heavenly birds, described as having human faces. Though they may cause destruction, they're considered to be a good and purifying force. We're talking Muyat Tala Malakwa, Malak, Malak, Wa, or the finisher, and is served by two subordinate deities, right? Check this out. One to take charge of the Indians and the other of the whites. Two subordinate deities. We're talking Muyatela Malak Wa, or the finisher. Morgan is undoubtedly referring to the same overall supreme being. All right, we're talking the Great Spirit, Maya Talataga, the Creator, the Great Spirit, Tapala Malak Wa, the Master or Great Spirit, Oasi Manitou, we're talking Manitou, Tapa La Malak Wa, let's get it, Oasi Manitou. Says to describe an all but extinct religion that has left us no altars, churches, or history is no easy task. They had no idea of idolatry. They couldn't fathom it. We can only hope to give some features of the once universal faith of the red man that they have come down to us largely through tradition. Says the Indian religion was very simple and their creed a short one. They believed in a great first cause as the giver of life and the creator of all things. We're talking Tapala Malak Wa, the great spirit, Owasi Manitou, and that worship and adoration will be paid to him. Right? For you shall have no gods before me, for you are consecrated to your power. They believed in the immortality of the soul, of a future existence in what is generally spoken of as the happy hunting ground. Their idea of the future abode of all Indians was that it was possessed all that was desirable in this life, with none of this world's evil, a land where there was to be no sickness, death, or enemies, and where game was inexhaustible. We're talking Edenic. Their religious worship consisted mainly of feasts and dances. Talking the ultimate ghost dance. Tecumseh stomps down every house in Tuckabatchee Town, as if the world might burst apart. Called the Great Spirit, this largely benevolent supreme being governs the happy hunting grounds. There is even a legend of the Great Spirit's gift of a set of inscribed stone tablets, similar to those given by Hua to Moshe. You know what you think. There is even a legend of the Great Spirit's gift of a set of inscribed stone tablets, similar to those given by Hua to Moshe. It says, in these the aid of the Great Spirit was invoked and an omen of good, anxiously looked for. It says, in addition to these fixed feasts and dances, there was the dance preceding an attack on an enemy and a similar one preceding a hunt. In these, the aid of the Great Spirit, Tapala Malakwa, Muyatela Malakwa, was invoked and an omen of good, anxiously looked for. If instead of an omen for good, there was an omen for evil, the contemplated enterprise would be abandoned, right? We're talking Josh Hua. There were times in which a prayer was made to the Great Spirit, just as the devout Christian prays to his Father in heaven, right? But there's not the same. It's pretty much telling you. There was a somber and joyless religion. It says the Indians had a somber and joyless religion. It says it had to do with this life only and had nothing to do in determining the state of joy and misery in the world to come. It taught that all, regardless of character, will be received and made welcome in the next world. We're talking the happy hunting grounds. Let's go. As we have said, their worship consisted, as they expressed it, of feasting and dancing. We might add that all feasts and dances were of a religious character, if not, in fact, religious acts. We're talking the ultimate ghost dance movement. Tecumseh stomps down every house in Tuckabachie. The spring feast was a Thanksgiving service. We're talking spring feast was a Thanksgiving service. The feast and dance on the eve of war was to placate the Great Spirit and through his favor have success in battle. If victorious, the scalp dances which followed were really praise services. And if defeated, the dances were occasions of humiliation and of bemoaning their sins which had angered the Great Spirit. There were other dances and ceremonies, but all were of a similar spirit of character. Right? Let's go, man. Are the Heba rules in Kalelu? The Shawnee prophet, talking 10 school with Tawa, open door, claimed that he often had direct communication with the Great Spirit and that through divine influence he could foretell events and perform miracles. The last 3 days of his conscious life, his mind was absorbed in religious contemplation, direct communication with the Most High. He could foretell events in the future. Says the last priest that was able to access these divine messages from Wah was Eleazar or Eleazar, who allowed Moshe to communicate with Wah directly. The last priest to have access, they say, was Eleazar. In the same power, Moshe could communicate with Wah directly. It says this power was somehow lost, and the Urim and Tumim were used purely as a divination tool, a more indirect form of higher communication. It says the Shawnee prophet could communicate directly with the Great Spirit. Tapala Malakwa. Talking Eleazar here. Talking Eliakim, son of Kilkiah, Khan, Josiah. Let's get it. Our grandmother, in addition to her creation of the bundles, maintains a potential control over them. Whenever she wishes, she may inform the Shawnees of desired changes. This is done through communication with prophets who visit her in her heavenly abode. The prophets then announce the changes to the people, right? We're talking prophets. Done through communication. The prophets then announce the changes to the people. Says perhaps no Indians were superior to the Shawnees. Perhaps no Indians were superior to the Shawnees in courage and prowess. The history of the Ohio Valley abounds in instances of their daring. The greatest Shawnee was Tecumseh. The prophet was a remarkable man, by many believed to have been the moving spirit behind the schemes of Tecumseh. We're talking Tenskwatawa. The prophet was a remarkable man. Let's get it. We're just staying in check, searching for the Melchizedek. Says the witch hunts also outraged William Henry Harrison. Says Harrison sent a message to the Delaware Indians, a warning and a challenge. So he's popping off from the prophet. Says, who is this pretended prophet who dares to speak in the name of the great creator? Says, is he more wise or virtuous than you are yourselves, that he should be selected to convey to you the orders of your power? Demand of him some proofs, at least of his being the messenger of the deity. If Wah has employed him, he has doubtless authorized him to perform some miracles, that he may be known and received as a prophet. If he is really a prophet, ask of him to cause the sun to stand still, the moon to alter its course, or the dead to rise from their graves. If he does these things, you may then believe that he has been sent by your power. So William Henry Harrison's popping off, speaking straight blasphemy to the tribe. Harrison's scornful challenge backfired. The prophet announced that he would make the sun stand still. The sun was high in the sky, they say. Then Tenskwatawa raised his hand. Darkness slowly covered the sun. The summer day turned as gray as dusk. Many long minutes later, the darkness withdrew and the sun slowly reappeared. The prophet had indeed stopped the sun. Let's go, man. Episode number 30. No worries. Let's get it. says, according to Hebrew law and history, there has always been more than one Messiah. There has always been more than one Mashiach. They came at different periods of time. When the Israelites were under captivity, slavery, or oppression, connect the dots. Their Creator would send a Messiah or Savior when the people cried unto Him and repented of their wrongdoings. A meteor is also conceptualized by the Shawnees as a great crouching panther. We're talking Tecumtha. Referring to this concept is sometimes translated as crouching panther. We're talking T'Challa Katha, and sometimes shooting star. Shooting star. While the sun and moon are sometimes mentioned in prayers, the stars are thought to have special powers. We're talking shooting star. Tecumtha, the crouching panther. Stars are thought to have special powers and are spoken of as our grandmother's partners. Like the thunderbirds, who may be directly appealed to for rain, the stars may also be so addressed. Says each of the 48 stars in the American flag has a Shawnee name. Each of the 48 stars in the American flag has a Shawnee name. The Indians accepted the stars as witnesses to their treaty of peace with the whites. Subsequently, when the whites were going to fight, the stars came down to advise the Indians. All right, we're talking dragon kings and dragon queens, servants of the Shama'ims. Says they have no definite idea of the formation of the sun or moon, but suppose them to be a man and a woman of immense power and size. A man and a woman of immense power and size. Your mother and father above, when the Great Spirit created all things, and that when the Shawanoas cease to exist, the sun and moon will cease to be, and the world will have an end. But they believe eclipses to be precursors of war. Precursors of war. Eclipses are called Mukatawiti Kisota, or black sun. Black sun. Let's get it. Like the sun and moon, the stars are supposed to be animate beings. And it is believed that meteors, called shooting stars, are beings fleeing from the wrath of some adversary, they say, or for some anticipated danger. We're talking Makate Witi Kasato, or black sun. Let's get it. Primarily the heavens up there. We're talking all encompassing superpower guarantees the fertility of the earth by raining down upon it, providing heat and light via the clockwork regularity of the sun. It says, and communicating messages by means of various signs and symbols in the sky, rainbows by day, and shooting stars, right, and comets by night. The blazing comet, the crouching panther, the shooting star. The Chinese ideogram for heaven, Tian, we're talking Tian Xia, stands for all that is above the human head. Mortals could only dream of its glories. It says mythologies from all over the world are replete with stories of the kingdom of heaven. We're talking dragon kings and queens, servants of the Shamaims. The most famous of Tenskwatawa's prophecies was his accurate announcement of a forthcoming eclipse. It says, as the time drew near, he called about him the scoffers, the William Henry Harrisons of the world. He called about him the scoffers, and boldly announced that on a certain day he would prove to them his supernatural authority by causing the sun to become dark. When the day and hour arrived and the earth at midday was enveloped in the gloom of twilight, Tenskwatawa, standing in the midst of the terrified Indians, pointed to the sky. Pointed to the sky. Let's go. Did I not speak the truth? See, the sun is dark, a true prophet and messenger of the master of life. His fame spread abroad, and apostles began to carry his revelations to the remotest of tribes. The prophet's twin brother also prophesied on occasion. The Kamse's most famous prophecy, still remembered today by Shawnees who knew little else concerning the career of their most famous chief, occurred on the occasion he visited the Creeks in 1811. The prophecy was made at Tuckabatchee Town, where every house was stormed down, near the present site of Montgomery, Alabama. Shout out to the Gump. Did I not speak the truth? See, the sun is dark. Let's go. Talking Shawnee arrogance here. The Shawnees arrogated to themselves a superiority over the whites, as well as other tribes of Indians. So the Shawnees stood tall. At the convention held at Fort Wayne in 1803, one of their principal men set forth their views in the following manner. He popped off, Shawnee popped off, 1803 said, the master of life, who was himself an Indian, made the Shawnees before any other of the human race, and they sprang from his brain. He gave all the knowledge he himself possessed and placed them upon the great island. And all the other red people are descended from the Shawnees. And all the other red people are descended from the Shawnees. After he made the Shawnees, he made the French and English out of his breast, the Dutch out of his feet, and the long knives out of his hands. All these inferior races of men he made white and placed them beyond the stinking lake, the Atlantic Ocean. Placed them beyond the stinking lake. And all other red people are descended from the Shawnees. And from the Shawnees, the master of life, who was himself an Indian, they sprang from his brain. Let's get it. The Shawnees for many ages continued to be masters of the continent. Masters of the continent. Using the knowledge they had received from the Great Spirit. We're talking mound cities. In such a manner as to be pleasing to him and to secure their own happiness. In that great length of time, however, they became corrupt, and the master of life told them that he would take away from them the knowledge which they possessed and give it to the white people, to be restored when, by a return to good principles, they would deserve it. Let's get it, man. We are you, the Hebrew, until they lose. The copper-colored tribes found here in America. At first they took it for a great bird, but they soon found it to be a monstrous canoe filled with the very people who had got the knowledge which belonged to the Shawnees. It says after these white people had landed, they were not content with having the knowledge which belonged to the Shawnees, but they usurped their land also. They pretended indeed to have purchased these lands, but the very goods they gave for them were more the property of the Indians than of the white people. They were duped, because the knowledge which enabled them to manufacture these goods actually belonged to the Shawnees. But these things will soon have an end. These things will soon have an end. The master of life is about to restore to the Shawnees their knowledge and their rights, and he will trample the long knives under his feet. For you shall tear down all their altars and smash all their pillars. For there is no breath in them. Let's get it. Episode number 30. No worries, no fear. The Most High is here. Let those with ears hear clearly. We're dodging all spiritual idolatry. Let's get it. Episode number 30 for the tribe. Let me know what you think. Leave a